episode 25 of the Circle Back podcast, the show where two great friends just get together and talk about video games. I'm Dan LaMarca, and as always, I'm joined by Dan Dufrenoy.
Hello.
And let's kick it off like we always do, my friend. What have you been playing?
Okay, well, not much.
Light week?
It's been one of those weeks where you just don't get a chance to put on the old PlayStation and play with the old remote, okay. You know? So, anyway.
Sidebar, I hate when people call them remotes. I don't know why. It like bothers me so much.
Wait, what do you got? A controller?
It's a controller.
It's a remote. Yeah.
Oh, I hate it.
Okay, anyway. So I played A Way Out.
Okay.
And I beat A Way Out with my sister, and that was it. So that was the big conquest of the week. We beat A Way Out. So.
All right, great. Let's move on. I played BattleTech.
Okay, you don't want to talk about Way Out?
Come on, man. Talk about it.
Okay, so, I mean, can we do spoilers? We can do spoilers. It's our freaking podcast.
We can do spoilers, but don't do anything too much.
Okay, because it's actually kind of crazy. So
actually, let's get into it. We'll warn it.
You just want to get into it?
Spoilers. I'm gonna pat Dan's side of his head when there's no more spoilers. So, starting now, spoilers about A Way Out.
Okay, so I have a few thoughts, and I really have like a few thoughts.
Okay.
One of those days. Anyway, so I don't know if I loved it, but I really liked it. And first I'm going to talk about what I really liked.
Okay. Save the worst for last?
Save the worst for last. What I really enjoyed about it is it was a lot of fun playing with my sister.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun playing with a friend and like co-oping. I mean, there's a lot of party games, there's the Smash games, there's a lot of racing games where you can play multiplayer. But there's something about this where like you're both like cooperating to like the end goal. You're doing different things, but it was really cool like cooperating to get to the end goal. There's certain scenes where, you know, you're going to use a hammer to break the toilet in the cell to get out to the other side, you know, while your friend has to like keep guard and he'll let you know when the guards come. And so like I liked that sort of aspect of it. I liked, you know, being in a car, one person driving and then another person shooting. Like I liked that sort of, hey, I need you to do this. Hey, you know, quicker. Hey, move to the left, move to the right. I like that sort of aspect. It was a cool, novel thing. Yes,
I agree. And this is why I ended up coming out a little higher on it than I thought I was going to. Remember we talked after and I was like, I really do like this game. I don't think it's a great game, but I really enjoyed my time with it, is because they set up a lot of really interesting situations for you guys to be in and fun interactions with the co-op mechanics, you know? And it's just between that line of goofy and bad, where it's like a lot of times you're just like, this is just bad, I can't even laugh. And then a lot of times you're like, this is kind of silly and it's funny.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I didn't like. I mean, talk about, you know, voice acting, story, characters. It's like as cliche as it gets.
Yeah.
And that's okay if, like, they know it's cliche, but I have a feeling that they really were trying to do, like, a really serious Prison Break story.
It's so weird. I'm sorry to cut you off. I've been watching Westworld Season 2.
Okay.
The guy that plays Leo is a character in it.
No way.
And it's Joseph Fares' brother, the director of the game A Way Out. His brother plays Leo.
Okay. And he's in Westworld?
And he's in Westworld, and he sounds exactly like Leo.
Like,
he looks
yo,
like him.
I get things done.
Yeah,
like,
he's so weird. But
is that actually how he talks?
He's like, hey, what's going on? Like, he's like totally a stereotype. I'm like, Jesus, look at him.
Well, that's the thing. That was like what detracted from the game. There's certain moments where me and my sister would just turn our heads at each other. There's a whole scene where Leo meets his son, and his son, oh my God, his son. I love you, Dad.
The worst actor
Dad.
of all time.
Dad, I'm so angry at you, Dad.
It's very
and then you
weird.
got to play basketball with him.
Which is so terrible.
So there's this whole scene, right? So Leo hasn't seen his wife in forever, hasn't seen his son. His son finds out that he's in prison. And, like, you know, it's just like a really, like, rough sort of, like, thing that any family would have to deal with if that happens in your family.
Normal everyday family.
It happens.
Dad's in jail again.
It happens. But, so, like, out of nowhere, he was like, hey, why don't we go play basketball with my kid? So Vincent, your companion, he was like, okay, no problem. But it's just so obtuse because, like, you're running away from the cops. The cops are actually just where you were. And, like, you're in the middle of playing basketball, and your son, this was the best part, though. So, I played as Vincent, so, like, I get the ball, and, like, to dribble, he's just, like,
oh, yeah,
like that. Crazy. But the best was you'd ask for the kid to pass it to you, and the kid would look at you, and then he'd go, And he'd throw it like and then Vincent would go, "You're a pro. You're a real pro. Really good. You think so?"
But think about, I love the dialogue in this game. It's so bad because he's like, I think you could grow up to be a real pro. And the kid is like, "You really think so?" And he's like, "Yeah, a real pro." Like he says it like multiple times. I'm like, who the fuck wrote this trash?
Well, that's the thing too. It's just so many like. I think I talked about this last time too. Where like they're sitting there and hey, Mr. Overthinker. Hey, what can I say? I think things through. Not like you. You're hasty. And it's like, well, I get things done. Like that. Like that crap.
One of my favorite ones is when. I think it's Vincent making fun of Leo's fear of heights, I think it is.
Oh, because you go on the plane, right?
And he says something where he's like, I bet you were a chicken when you were a kid. Or he said like something, and he keeps like going on about it. He's like, shut up, I was not. And they like go back and forth.
I remember that, yeah.
What the fuck?
It's just like, I'm not a wimp. Yeah. I'm not a wimp. 2 minutes later.
I bet you are.
Yeah, that's it. Well, even wasn't there's like an arcade machine that they can play,
yeah.
and Leo's just like, "Hey, let's play it. Let's like when we were kids, just like when we were kids, like when we were kids." And it's just like stuff like that where you're just like,
it's so bad. But let's talk about. I want to talk about some of the good stuff.
All right. So seriously,
I want to talk about specific scenes.
Let's freaking. Okay. Do we want to go into the ending?
Yeah. Well, before we get to the ending,
bam.
A scene there were two major scenes that I really liked. And then the ending scene I also appreciated. But the two that I really liked was, first, the Hitman scene at the theater.
Oh, yeah,
when
yeah,
you're like making a phone call and the guy comes out
Uh-huh.
and starts shooting. That scene was really cool, really well shot, right?
Mm-hmm, definitely.
And the different cuts between
yeah, where he's trying to get through the door.
Yeah.
And, like, you got it, yeah.
Really, really cool.
Uh-huh.
Like, that's the shit that this game does so well. And I wish it was just that.
Yeah.
And I wish it was much less spoken words and much more of just
like
show.
Brothers was.
Like show,
yeah.
not tell kind of thing,
Yeah.
like Brothers. I think this would have been a much better game. But again, I had fun with it because it was goofy, so the dialogue you can laugh at it.
You said the Tommy Wiseau stuff.
It is Tommy Wiseau, literally that bad, but not all of it is laughable because some of it is like just so bad that it's not even funny. You know
You're
what I mean?
my friend, Danny.
There's
You've always been my friend.
that you're like, this isn't actually even funny. And then there's sometimes you're like, all right, this is fucking stupid. But the other scene, the next one that I really liked was the hospital.
Oh, okay.
Oh
yeah, where you're both different.
Where you split up,
yeah,
and it's
that
one
was
camera.
Cool. That was really cool. And it splices it.
Yeah, and the fact that they did that without overusing it, and that scene was like just so well done.
Or like
it
you're
was
on
like,
one floor, and then it just.
It was like Heat.
And then you were on the. Yeah.
When you're like going, the camera pans down, and then it's like zooms in on you, and you're the other
really
guy's
cool.
on the other floor. Like that sort of stuff.
Definitely.
That whole scene was really, really well done. And then the ending, I'm torn on because, number one, I think it's a really interesting mechanic.
Did you see it coming?
Yeah.
Oh, really? You knew that Vincent was going to... Spoilers?
Yeah.
Double cross?
We're still in spoilers. Don't worry about that. But
okay.
So Vincent basically was a cop the whole time, and he decides, he basically goes against Leo. And they have this big thing where Leo grabs him, they drive away, and they have this fight in this parking garage or whatever. I forget even what it was. And it basically comes down to one of you is going to die and one of you is going to live.
Yeah.
Which, as a mechanic, in this co-op game where they flip it and now make it competitive.
That was cool.
It's very cool, and I love it. I think the story that they wrote was totally incongruous with that choice, because Vincent throughout this story would not have turned against Leo.
Yeah.
He would have figured out a way to just say like, listen, I'm gonna let you go, you're gonna go hide somewhere. Like, that's the ending that it should have been.
Yeah.
As far as the way that story was going, because these guys were becoming closer and closer, and then all of a sudden Vincent's like, that's it for you. You got to go in. It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
I can give you a light sentence. Like,
it doesn't make any sense.
You're absolutely right about that. That's a really good point.
I hated that that was the ending, but the mechanic itself was really smartly done, and I actually really, really liked it.
Well, that was cool when you were cooperating the entire time, and then now you're pitted against each other.
What happens is it splits the screen.
Yeah.
And it's a competitive third-person shooter now where you have health bars, and guess what? First person to die actually gets killed.
Gets killed in the game, yeah.
And it's really good. And I actually like both of the endings, too. again, a little heavy rainish with the weird uncanny valley with, some of these characters showing emotion is kind of weird. But I liked both the endings, and I think overall that's why I came out of this game and being like, I really like this game. Is because it has a lot of good stuff to offer. And it has so many good ideas.
It really does.
So many good ideas. That's why I told you that before you even started. If they gave Naughty Dog they went to Naughty Dog and said, write us a story and we'll do the mechanics like this.
Yeah, honestly, that could be one of the best games of the year.
It's that good.
Yeah.
At what it does, but it's just so it's Tommy Wiseau, man. And I think there are certain moments where it actually comes together in the story, a few moments. Yeah. That are touching or whatever, but they're not conveyed by the actors at all. So it's hard.
Then just the writing is just not good.
The writing's
just
terrible,
not good. Yeah. Though I like what you said. Yeah, that would have been cooler if Vincent, even if they did the turn against each other mechanic, and then there came
at the end,
a point where Vincent's like, okay, like.
But the other thing that's cool is it is cool to be like, hey, one of these guys has to die, and you're the two players. Yeah. That's a cool idea. But this wasn't that story that they were telling. Yeah. I just don't believe it was. It's two disparate parts. Like, make the story you're telling, but don't end it on this really cool idea just because you have a cool idea. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how the game seemed like it was built. Was like, this guy had in his brain, man, it would be really cool if we were co-op doing this. Let's figure out how to get that in the story.
I also just realized Vincent was a cop and
killed a lot.
He killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
And the PD officer was just like, oh no, you had to avenge your brother.
It's all ridiculous, and it's all super cliched. Like, everything is trope. But, yeah, overall, what'd you think?
Overall, it was a really, really good game. I'm glad I played it. I really am.
That's why I say I'm careful the way I talk about it, because I'm like, it's not a great game. But I really liked it.
I wouldn't say that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. It's not a great game.
I don't know where it's going to fall up on our Game of the Year list, but I definitely know that it will be one that, I like to talk about it. I think it's definitely a good game. Definitely off the beaten path a little bit. And
it's a game that I enjoyed, but I don't think is a great game. Yeah. That's how I put it. So, no more spoilers. A Way Out. No more A Way Out talk. I'm glad you finished it.
I am too. So I gotta get through God of War.
Yeah, you do. We still want to have that spoiler cast one of these days.
One of these days. 7 months.
Probably a couple months. Right when it's relevant. All right, so I also had a pretty light gaming week. I only played BattleTech, which I told you a lot about last week. Yeah. I do have more to talk about, so I'll do a little bit of that, but I'm not going to inundate you guys because I'm sure nobody else is playing that game, even though it's one of the best games of the year.
Playing one. Just you're the only person.
But BattleTech still continues to be a totally addicting and amazing game. Still have my exact same gripes that I had. A little repetitive in the random events as you're cycling through the days. But as you go on and on, the gameplay just gets better and better as you get bigger and cooler and better mechs. Because I told you there are different classes, light, medium, heavy, and assault. Now I have an assault mech and 3 heavies. And they're just badass. They look awesome. Yeah. They're really fun to use. All these different new weapons that I'd never seen before. Now I'm fighting other assault and heavies that I've never seen. And I'm like, man, look at this. This one called the King Crab. That's just a badass. It has crazy cannons on it. It's this game is so good.
Awesome.
It satisfies on so many different levels. You know what I mean? As a tactics game, it's near perfect. Yeah. And then you get these giant robots that are really freaking cool. And then the story is actually really good.
That's awesome.
The music is fantastic. It's just a really, really good, complete package.
It seems to completely have taken your focus off of, what was that other game you played? Frostpunk, was it called?
Yeah. I absolutely, I'm 100% going back to Frostpunk.
The BattleTech's really on your mind right now.
That's all I'm playing. Yeah, because it's got its hook to me. So when I finish BattleTech, or when I have a lull at any point after, which it doesn't seem like there's much, especially if Detroit isn't very good, then I definitely will go immediately back to Frostpunk.
Cool.
But yeah, loving BattleTech. Really cool twist in the story. they're obviously setting it up as like Game of Thrones in space.
Yeah.
That's their pitch. They want it to be that. Like, you can tell by the way everything's written that it's like they're looking to expand this universe out even more. They're trying to be like, hey, see what kind of writing we can do, because it is good, but it's very iterative, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's enjoyable, and there are good twists, and characters you love die, like that sort of stuff. It's very good, and again, anybody that's even mildly interested in tactics games,
awesome.
Couldn't recommend it anymore.
Cool.
It's one of my favorite games.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's what we've been playing. Just those 2 games for this week. We also don't have a Metal Gear Corner this week.
I'm sorry.
Dan was not able to get around to it, but that's all right. We'll catch up with him next week. So we're just going to dive into...
I'm not going to play Metal Gear anymore. I think I'm just done. I know. It was a rough week, but I'll definitely get back to it.
It's no big deal. You can't be expected to do it every week. So we're going to jump into our main topic for today. We have kind of a preliminary list here of things that came off the top of our heads. The topic basically is, so we've done in the past a topic where it would be like, what's a game that you loved when you were a kid and then now you realize was a bad game?
Yeah.
We're not doing that. What we're doing is games that we loved when we first played them, but then as we start thinking about them and critiquing them and looking back on them, we start to see the flaws, and maybe this wasn't the great game that we thought it was.
Yeah.
So there's 2 aspects of this: games we loved and then soured on, or games that, so not even including the second half. It can also include games that we started, fell in love with, and then totally fell off midway through as like, man, I thought I loved this game, and then by the end I was like, I don't even really like this game. So we have that aspect. And then we have games we hated at first, and then as time went on, years went on, we learned to love that game. So we have 2 lists here, just things that we thought of, and we're just going to kind of get into them. I think a pretty good, fun one to start off with is Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess.
Okay.
For me.
All right.
So, always been a huge Zelda fan, loved everything from the original, to Breath of the Wild. Was our game of the year last year. So, I love Zelda. There was nothing more hyped at the time than Twilight Princess. I know you were a little younger at the time. This was right at the launch of the Wii. This was 2005.
Mm-hmm. I was a 10, 11-year-old boy.
Yeah, so I was a little bit older, but
you were a tough as nails kid.
definitely tough as nails. But the hype train on this game was just nonstop going off the rails, because it was like everybody loved Ocarina.
Mm-hmm.
Majora's Mask, people were torn on, but they're like, okay, we were just happy to be back in the Ocarina world. Wind Waker, people didn't like.
Yeah, that's so crazy.
Because even though they're all idiots, the people that didn't like Wind Waker because it was cartoonish, you can get right the fuck out on that, because that's just stupid.
That game's amazing.
But it was a case that some people said like, it's too kiddie, blah, 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 whatever. So then we see these trailers for Twilight Princess. It looks like Ocarina, but with updated graphics, like beautiful, like dark. This is like real Zelda, like realistic, like, all these different things. And everyone's getting so hyped about it. Yeah. And I played it, and I absolutely loved it.
Oh, you did like it? Yeah. You actually enjoyed it at first?
Of course. Loved it. And the reason I loved it was because I was like, man, it's more Zelda. Yeah. It's like my favorite series is like growing up with me. Yeah. Like, this is more mature and adult. And sure enough, I was a dumb 14, 15-year-old. And as I started going, years later, going back to the game, you had the probably the worst case of the opening tutorial being hours long.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible in that game.
Yeah, everything.
That game in particular is terrible at that. Then you have the whole Wolf Link thing.
I never...
Terrible.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely terrible. Not fun to control, not fun to play.
Well, even controlling, you don't really even control it. You just hit A and you jump.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's so frustrating to play now, and I know that there are still fans of Twilight Princess that talk about the dungeon design and how good it is. And
well, some people really love it because, I'm sorry to cut you off, but they just came out with the remaster too. Like, it's not,
it's still well liked.
Mm-hmm.
I look back on that, and it's one of my least favorite Zelda games. And that doesn't make it a bad game, and that's why I'm saying, like, this topic is not, hey, I love this game, and then I found out it was bad. It's, I love this game, and then I realized it's not as good as I thought it was. You know what I mean? Where you can look back on it and be thoughtful about it and be like, like, I really loved it at the time. Like, we could do it with hundreds of movies where it's like, you see it, and you're like, wow, that was amazing. Like, that opened my mind. Like, how many 90s dramas were like mind-blowing at the time, and now you look at them and they're very formulaic.
Well, yeah.
And it's...
Oh, I could name like 100 right now.
But you know, like, you thought it was like doing something, and it's like, that's what I'm talking about with this kind of concept.
And it's kind of just like white noise. It's just...
Yeah, so Twilight Princess for me is that perfect example of has so many flaws. So many flaws. And for me, the high points don't outweigh the low points. And that's why it like settled in around the bottom of my list for Zelda games. But that's me. That's one game on this list that we had to talk about.
That's really that's a good point. For some reason, I always thought that you always just hated Twilight Princess, but no, there was a point that you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of games that I look back on with a little like distaste are because I've gone back to them with a different perspective.
Okay.
Like especially when I was younger, waiting for every issue of Game Informer, reading all these previews, like getting hyped for this game. It's like I loved the game because I felt like I had to love that game,
okay.
And it was also I didn't have the money to buy whatever games I want. Like now I play every game I want to play, and it's like it wasn't like that then. So it's like you kind of got behind it. You know what I mean? It's like it's your horse in the race.
Nickels
like,
and dimes.
This is my game. It's so good. It's like so at the time I really loved it. It was even like 3 or 4 years after it came out, I replayed it, and I was like, and then I played it again when it came out on Wii U.
What always bothered me about it is that like I appreciate that they're trying to go for something like more mature and dark, but like for me it wasn't even like the story. It was just like they made it look dark, like
literally dark.
It was like legit, like the colors were just like pale and it just I don't know.
Not a huge fan of that one, but at the time I absolutely loved it.
Yeah.
Give me one of yours off this list. Dan.
Let's see. Okay, so actually a more recent game, Fallout 4.
Yeah.
I love Fallout 3. I think that's pretty unanimous. A lot of people love Fallout 3. Just like that whole opening and just like how it's like a continuous, even though there's side quests, it's like a continuous through line of, you're trying to find your father, and stuff like that. So when Fallout 4 came out, also I love Bethesda, I love Skyrim and Oblivion and stuff. So I was like, oh great, like cool, I can kind of immerse myself in the world. Again, when I got it, I loved it. I think it was like 2015, like late 2015. I just remember I was in school, in college, and I remember I skipped class so that I could go to Best Buy and buy it. Like I went to my one class and then I skipped my other one so I could go to Best Buy and buy it. I came home and like the entire day I had so much fun. I even enjoyed things like building the structures and all that. Well, I thought the first neighborhood you're in, I thought that was the only one that you had to like worry about, and then I realized that you have to worry about like 85,000 ones. But I loved it. I thought it was great. I loved the characters. I loved that guy Vincent. Was it not Vincent Valentine? That's from Final Fantasy.
Nick Valentine.
Nick Valentine, the Blade Runner guy. Like he's like the replicant. I loved that. I loved some of the cities, some of the worlds. I really, really had a great time with that game. I went to the end. I thought the Railroad. I thought that was really, really cool. Like they tried to like help escape robots.
Yeah.
I forget the machines. I thought that was really, really cool. I loved the dynamics between all the different factions. The four. I had a great time with it. Beat it, put it away, and
never really thought about it again.
Never thought about it again until I forget we were talking. I think it came out in November or whatever. We were talking about our best games. This is before the podcast, and we were like really doing serious game of the year lists. But I remember we were always saying, "Oh, what were some of your favorite games last year? Like, what would you put in a list?" And I completely didn't mention Fallout 4 at all. And then I remember we were talking about it, and I was just like, now looking back on it, like I really, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it, and like playing it, like I was really immersed, and I actually like loved it. It was all I thought about for a time, but like looking back on it, I have like empty feelings towards it. There was just something about it that didn't.
Yes. So there are a few things that I want to bring up with that specifically. Mm-hmm. This reminds me of how I talked about Destiny 2 last year.
Yes. Okay.
And that's perfect for this list as well, where it's like you had a fervor and want to play, and you played and played and played, and you were enjoying your time with it. But when you put it down, you don't look back on it with the kind of reverence that you look back on some of your favorite games as. And that doesn't mean you didn't enjoy your time with it, but it obviously didn't leave a lasting impression, so maybe it's not that great of a game. Yeah. It is kind of what it is. I had a similar experience with another, and this one is gonna get me a lot of hate, I'm sure. I had a similar experience to that with Skyrim.
Okay.
Because I
don't hate you, Dan.
Loved Morrowind, loved Oblivion, and when I played Skyrim, I was loving it as I was playing it. I was in it, I was enjoying it. But then I kept comparing it to Oblivion, and like certain aspects to Oblivion, certain aspects to Morrowind, and I was like, it wasn't surprising in the same way that the Brotherhood was in Oblivion.
Yeah.
And this part wasn't that surprising as it was. Like I kept like doing that, and I did the exact same thing with Fallout 4 to Fallout 3, where I was like, I remember getting every single achievement in Fallout 3 and Oblivion.
Yeah.
Because I remember, it's almost like, this is a topic we'll have to do another day, but it's almost like there's something to a game that is smaller in scope, but still open, like still an open world, but there's not so many things to do that certain things become not as memorable. Like in Fallout 3, I remember so vividly these certain specific missions. Like there was an oasis out in the wasteland.
I remember that where you're just walking out and
you walked out and all of a sudden, wow, what the hell is this? I got to check it out. And then there was this place where you could go into like VR and go into this like old black and white town.
Yeah.
And you were like this killer clown. It was like this
Oh my God, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. But it's like I have such vivid memories of this, and 3 months after I played Fallout 4, I didn't have any of those.
Yeah.
And it's like, is that the game, or is it my fatigue with the game? With that series. Like, you know, there's something to unpack there that I'm not capable of doing at this moment. But it's like, I had the same feeling with Skyrim and Fallout 4, and I know Skyrim's a great game, and I loved it at the time, obviously.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't have that same feeling like I had with Oblivion and Fallout 3.
Yeah, that's how I feel. The perfect way I feel Fallout 4. Yeah.
That's how I felt about with both of them.
Definitely.
And yeah, that fits into this category in a way, because you're right. It's like you're not looking back on it with the same love. So
it's not even that. Like I can't even.
There's nothing memorable. Yeah.
Other than, like I said, I love Nick Valentine, but other than that, like I just remember playing it. But looking back now, you could ask me, what was your favorite moment? And like I can't even think of one.
Yeah. No, so, I hear you. I think Fallout 4 is a good candidate for this. Huge one for me, and I'm sure we'll talk a while about this one, is BioShock Infinite.
Okay. Yeah.
BioShock Infinite. So, huge BioShock fan.
Of course.
You know, incredible game. BioShock 2 I was very disappointed with. Love Minerva's Den, the DLC for BioShock 2. I felt like it got back into that. You know, a lot of people say Steve Gaynor was the lead designer on Minerva's Den, and he's the guy that made Gone Home.
Okay.
So if you play Minerva's Den, you really see that DNA of like the ideas he's coming up with in that. And then, of course, he left in the beginning of Infinite, or before Infinite, started his own company and made Gone Home. So it's like, I like Minerva's Den for similar reasons to why I like the original, because it understood what we didn't like about BioShock 2. You know what I mean? So we got to Infinite, and again, hype off the charts for this game. It was like crazy.
It was a new world. It was a new thing.
Crazy, like in the sky. Like we didn't know what was going on. Everything's very colorful. It's like it's almost like the anti-Rapture, you know. And so we're like, we got to see like what's going on. So I played this game, and I absolutely loved it when I played it. I thought it was like revolutionary storytelling. Like loved it. Like all about it. And even in the few months following, I remember just thinking about certain things and reading criticism pieces and this and that. And like, it's a super well-reviewed game. Like nobody's debating that it's not a revered game. Bioshock Infinite, a lot of people would say, is like an excellent, amazing game. But I look back on it, and the way it's like trying to say something without really saying something.
It'd be very centrist.
It's very centrist. That game is like centrist the game.
Yeah.
But it totally posits itself as being edgy and
right,
because it's literally like a museum of racism.
Right, no, exactly. Yeah, it's like early America, like early 20th century.
So they're trying to do this, but when you really examine it, they're not really doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and so I look back on a game like Bioshock Infinite, and I'm like, I don't love it.
Yeah.
Because of those things.
Yeah.
So it's like this is what made me think of this topic in general, is this game in specific, because it is a good thing to look back on the things that we liked and examine like why we liked them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like God of War, for example. Perfect example. The old God of War games, I loved them when I was younger. And then I started thinking about them, and I'm like, I don't know if this is really cool, whatever. And then the new one, addresses a lot of these issues, and, it's not without its faults, but it's an amazing game. Mm-hmm. And so Bioshock Infinite fits into that category so well of, like, critically lauded, like, everyone loves this game, it's incredible. The things it says, like, kind of, like, feeding into, like, what Ken Levine thought he was doing, but really he was kind of afraid to actually make a statement, So that's a good example. There are things that I still love about that game. Mm-hmm. I think the combat's terrible. Super monotonous.
It's very Wolfenstein combat.
It's like rough. It's just totally pointless. But even in the game, like I think there were a lot of interesting ideas, like with the little riffs in the world, with the 80s pop music coming out of them and stuff like that. Like there was a lot of really good intrigue there. But overall, as a whole, there were so many issues that I had with it, especially looking back on it, that this is like the
poster child for games you love that's soured on.
Exactly. What do you got for me?
Next I'm going to talk about a game I know you're very, very in love with.
See, this one hurts. This one hurts me.
I'm sorry. Prey just came out last year. Dude, that game kicks ass like the first few hours. Like it really is so cool. Like seriously, I would tell anybody, and I'm sure I've said this before, so if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. If you can get a demo of that game somewhere, just play like the first 2 hours. Like just get it just to do the beginning, because that is just such a cool intro.
It's a very cool intro. I would argue that at the very least, I mean, I would agree that the back end of that game is really rough.
It's just,
but I don't think I think there's some good hours in there.
No, definitely. I'm sorry, you're right. I don't want, but
don't just say hey, the first 2 hours are the only good part.
No, I mean
unless you believe that.
No. But like there's once you get to the middle section, I love those sort of like games with those systems. I love those games where you can kind of just explore the world, and like it is cool. You're on the space station. You're stranded on the space station, and you don't know what's going on. And you kind of find all these clues like through your environment, through people you meet, and just through, looking around. John F. Kennedy's like 150, he's still alive, and we live in space now. Like all these like cool little interesting things that you got to look for. But there's like, once I got to about maybe like 10 hours in, where it all became like, okay, well you need to go over here and hit this button so that we can open that. But in the meantime, you got 70 enemies that are just so brutal and so difficult. It becomes a bit of a slog to play through. So I loved it at first. I was playing it every day. I was just, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like the beginning was amazing. Like I'm loving this. Like I'm loving this world. Getting all these upgrades, all these weapons. And then I know when it hit me. There's that point where you walk out and there's like this main like hub world area, like it looks like a park, and there's like trees and stuff, and there's like branching paths, and I think that moment is when it became such a slog, where it was just like, and I love open world, and it's not that it needed to be linear, but like having all those like go this way, oh maybe you're in the wrong way, maybe go that way, and
the reason this one hurts me so much is because this game has the DNA to be like one of my favorite games of all time. Like it has the parts, but it totally shit the bed on the combat.
Yeah.
And it's not because the combat's not interesting, because I think there are certain things you can do in combat that are interesting, and some of the abilities that you can get if you take I forget what they call it. where you like kind of make yourself alien.
Oh, you eject yourself.
But when you start using those kind of abilities, it can get really interesting. But there's so much of it, and the enemies respawn every time you leave and come back, and it's like there's a version of this game that is literally maybe my favorite game of all time. Like it's that good at what it does. Yeah. The emails, the writing in it, the mystery of it, so many of these little pieces. It's like the best BioShock game that there is.
Yeah, it really is.
And
in that respect, and
but that's
those
what I'm saying.
Like,
but that's why it's like, oh, come on.
So I think the combat actually does ruin it.
But that's all that it is. Because I
enemies.
don't think that area, that open area that you're talking about, the branching paths and stuff, I don't think that's as egregious if there's no enemies to fight.
It would be an issue if there's that freaking enemy that's like that huge like cloud looking like.
Wait, you're talking about the one that flies or the big one?
Yeah, no, it's the big one that like flies like the greenhouse.
I think you meant the big, I forget what it's called, like the giant one that like fills up.
No, but it's just like you're in this open like hub area and you're just trying to go this way, but like that guy spots you and like he just keeps and then you get stuck where like you get to the point where like for me at least, you know, you're saving every second because it's just getting like way too difficult. But then you're stuck and then you can't progress anywhere and it just becomes a slog to play through. And I'm sorry, Craig.
I agree, which is what sucks. I really think they could have made like a masterpiece out of that game.
The world itself is awesome.
Everything is good about it except the combat ruins it. Because even exploring that space station with sparser combat, I always said if they made it so that it was just the mimics and the occasional boss. Yeah. Like if it was just mimics, but maybe they did more damage or something. Yeah. It's like that would have been an amazing game because that idea of anything around you could be an enemy.
That's cool.
It was so cool, and it made it terrifying. Yeah. Like everything you went to go pick up or go near, you're like looking until obviously you get the thing that lets you spot mimics, and then it ruins the whole game. But it's like if they didn't have all these different enemy types, I don't know who told them that they had to have this combat. Yeah. Because it clearly didn't seem like they wanted it. Yeah. If it was just like the abilities you were gaining were... If it was just like the abilities you were gaining were helping you traverse differently or enter different doors, like if it was more Metroid-y in the abilities rather than combat focused, could have been incredible. Yeah. Oh, man, come on.
I know. I'm sorry. I know. It's okay.
Huge one for me. I've talked about it 1,000 times, so I'm not going to dwell on it. Is Final Fantasy VII. The interesting thing is, a lot of time you guys hear me just talk about Final Fantasy VII stinks, it's overrated, yada yada.
Spiky hair and zippers.
When it came out, I loved it. Like every other, young kid.
Angsty young man.
I mean, I wasn't really angsty at age 6, kid. But yeah, it was, it's still a well-made, really good RPG, and I think I liked the, tone and everything it was going for until I got a little bit older, and then I started thinking about it. So that one kind of doesn't fit in here because it is kind of like a game you liked when you were a kid. I put it in here because it actually is a good game. Mm-hmm. It's not like I liked it when I was a kid, but it's bad. Yeah. Like it's a good game. I don't like it, but it's a good game. You know what I mean?
Well, I gotta say, I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, it was...
Like, for me, the first 10 hours, the first part, maybe why is 10 like the number off my brain today? The first few hours, whatever, where you're in Midgard. Like, I liked that, and I liked that sort of what they were going for there. Like, it's like this, like, totalitarianistic, like, state, and, like, like these different, factions, and you're, like, a terrorist group. Yeah. But you're, like, freedom fighter. Like, it's just, like, in this, like, all the dimensions and layers within that and all these characters. But then once it got to the point where, like, I don't know. I think there's so many cop-outs where it's like, oh, this whole time you think Cloud is this guy, but now he's having this nervous breakdown, but the truth is he was just lying this entire time. Like, just like crap, and it's just like such a cop-out and such like a this is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I lost it for me.
I know. That game, I mean, we have a long storied history of talking trash about that game.
We could do a whole episode
on it.
But
I think, that's enough about that.
Yeah.
I'll say again briefly, there's one major one on here that I want to talk about in depth, but I'm going to talk about two quickly and just get them out of the way. Assassin's Creed, again, another one I've talked about a lot on these shows. Mm-hmm. I really liked the first one when it came out, especially. Yeah. Like, I got almost every achievement. I might have even got every achievement. Like, I loved just exploring that world. It was so unique and new. Like, the climbing felt cool. I never played anything like it before. And then, of course, more came out, and I totally didn't like them at all. Even though there were better games, it was more of the same. And now I look back on that game, and I'm like, it wasn't really doing much. You know, like, it was new and interesting, and that's why I liked it. It doesn't make it a good game.
Yeah, sure.
The Gears of War franchise, I'll include in here as well. Soured on is the term because I still think these are very good games, and I think they're fun to play. They control well. I like playing them online, multiplayer especially. But back when they came out, there wasn't this breadth of story games. Mm-hmm. So you felt like this is all you had, you know, and it's kind of just like a schlocky action, you know, story. Like, the story of these games are not great, but at the time I really thought they were because we didn't have much to compare them to. Mm-hmm. So looking back on that and the story, I'm kind of like, you know, it's not really anything special. It's just kind of like, I love you, bro. Like, that's pretty much the game.
One more time?
I love you, bro.
Damn, you never told me you love me. I love you too.
The last one, the big one I want to talk about here is Heavy Rain.
Okay.
We touched on it when we did our discussion about our good boy, David Cage.
Our good boy, our Papa. No, what do they call him?
Yeah, Papa.
Our sun god or whatever it is.
Papa, the sun god,
our son,
a.k.a. No,
What a dweeb.
The thing about this game is when it came out, I really liked it.
Okay.
And I played it right when it came out.
Okay.
And I still, to this day, think it does a lot of interesting things, almost in a Way Out style. But the difference is where A Way Out is goofy and you can laugh at it for being bad, Heavy Rain is not goofy at all. And it's super self-serious, and it thinks it deserves, like, Best Picture. You know what I mean? Like, it's so over the top in its delivery that you look at it now and you roll your eyes. When it came out, there wasn't much like it. It was really kind of, you know, brand new idea with all these different branching paths and the story. You know, and like I said, there's still things that I think it did well. I think you look back on it, the acting is terrible, the writing's terrible. They pronounce origami about 50 different ways in that game. Between origami, like they say, it's terrible. And I think you look back on this game, there's problematic parts in how they treat women. There's problematic parts in how they treat different, not races, but different cultures.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Like, the game has major issues. And I think at the time you looked past those things because you were like, wow, look, it's trying to push the medium forward in storytelling because we didn't have much else to go on.
Yeah.
Now we're, you know, whatever it is, 10 years later, it's a different world, and we look back on this game and it's like, that game is not so good.
I gotta say, playing Until Dawn made me realize, like, Until Dawn did a better Heavy Rain than Heavy Rain. That's
Supermassive. I hope they get to do another game in that style because no matter what they do,
that's the way
to do it.
Done, yeah.
Even in gameplay, it does that weird gameplay of like, you know, hold R2 and push up, like all those weird like it does that in the right way, you know, where it's not frustrating.
Well, that's what I thought was just weird with Heavy Rain too. I mean, I guess it was cool, and I guess at the time I played it a little bit later than when it first came out. But you know, you're just walking around. It's like, oh, you pick up a pen to write something. So like, you gotta go, and you gotta go.
And you're holding like 5 buttons just to pick it up.
Yeah, just to pick it up. Yeah. I'll never forget actually. And because like you can't get out of those events, there's no way. So like,
it will reverse when you let go of the buttons.
What was I remember one time you play it. Oh, was it Ethan?
Ethan. Yeah.
Ethan. You're at his refrigerator and like he has orange and he has to drink orange juice. But like you have to shake the remote just precisely for him to shake the orange juice. And it was taking me like 7 days just to like. And he's just like.
Yep. In the time when that game came out, it was new and special. I mean, there were people that disliked it, obviously, but there were things that did well and there were things that didn't do well. I look back on that game with a much
more reverence. No, less reverence.
Much less reverence than I would have told you right after beating it.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Now let's go to the other side of this. The
Okay.
other side is games that we hated at first,
Cool.
grew to love over time.
Let's do it.
You have a couple big ones here that I tend to agree with.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to start with, I'm a big Castlevania fan. Love all the Castlevania games. I've probably played every single one of them. I don't think I've missed one. Castlevania 2, Simon's Quest. I know that's the one that a lot of people crap on. A lot of people, Nintendo did this weird thing back in the 80s. It wasn't weird at the time, but like looking back on it, Mario 2, Zelda 2, Castlevania 2 were all very different than the first
huge
game.
departures.
And then the third game, it's like the first and third games of each had like their formula that we know and love, but the second games were always kind of like off.
Well, think about it like this: rather than saying the first and the third game are similar, they thought the second game should be different, and then when people said we really like the first game, they went back and did it.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, that's a good point. You're absolutely right. That's a good one. So,
Simon's Quest, I agree.
Simon's Quest is you play as Simon Belmont, and it's very, very weird. You go to all these different towns, and everybody's giving you these really weird cryptic messages, and you kind of just roam around, and you just kind of end up in these like castles, and you gotta get Dracula's body parts.
Yeah, it's a very strange game. The interesting thing for me with this is Simon's Quest was my dad's favorite Castlevania.
Was it really?
When I was younger. So that's the one that I had the most experience with
No kidding.
when I was young. Yeah. So
But did you know all the secrets and stuff?
Yeah, I think he had like Nintendo Power.
Okay, yeah.
And it was like, figuring it out or whatever. But yeah, I remember playing with him Simon's Quest specifically. So I didn't have that same experience, but I mean, looking at the game, it's like obviously obtuse for obtuse sake, like that tile you have to kneel on or whatever.
That's the thing. You have to get you have to use the right crystal so that a tornado will come in. And like, thank God for the internet. Like, finally, like however many ever years ago, once the internet started having the walkthroughs, I was able to look it up and like, okay, now I know how to beat it. But when you're a kid, but you're just like, I don't know where to go, and like those like weird moments.
And that's a perfect example of a game that could be, if you picked it up, if you had never played it and you picked it up today, you might feel the same way.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Where you would be like, what the hell is this? And put it down.
100%.
And then when you really think about it and look at this game, there's a lot to appreciate.
100%.
Like, I really like Simon's Quest a lot.
Definitely.
And obviously, it's a tough one to get into.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's kind of the theme of this section is, man, it's really obtuse or hard to get into with all these games that we have on here. They might be really hard to get into or they're obtuse or something, but then when you get into them, they're pretty rewarding. Yeah. That's the idea. So, same thing with Zelda 2.
Zelda 2 is the same way.
Very, very similar. Just a weird game, especially after the first one. It's so different with the giant Link sprite.
That's the thing. And then when you're a kid, too, just like, it was very difficult, very hard. You don't know where you're going. There isn't really like a nice... And again, I'm not... I love open world games, but like, it wasn't like linear, and like you get all these like cryptic hints on what you have to do, And again, I'm all no hand holding, but at the same time, like, same thing with Simon's Quest. Like, you're told, okay, you have to go to this mountain or whatever. I'm just saying these things. You have to go to this mountain. So like, someone will tell you something along the lines of like, what once was tall and long. To go south, then north, then west, and then south again. And like, find the skull inside the tomb. Like, it's just like stuff like that. And you
when
just
you
like...
played Minute, wasn't that so awesome though that they talked in the same way?
Yeah, they did the same exact thing. But like that, but they did that same.
But now you know.
That's why exactly.
Yeah. Oh, so
that was why. But like that, when when you're playing those for the first time at least, you're just like, what am I supposed to? I'm pretty sure like you get like clues in these games that have nothing to do with the game. Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank God for walkthroughs and like Nintendo Powers and stuff like that.
One that I think both of us had a similar experience with, and I had talked about before, but I haven't really heard yours end of this, is Dark Souls.
Okay, well, Dark Souls...
I'll briefly just say, you've heard me say it before on here, I started Dark Souls, couldn't get past it, hated it, sold it back.
It's
twice.
So funny. I know how much
sold it back, bought it, tried it again, sold it back, bought it. And then the final time that I had it, I really put my head down and just said, I'm just going to fucking do it until I figure it out, and fell in love with it.
It's like one of your favorite games. Maybe your favorite game, right?
Yeah, depending on the day you ask me.
That's so funny.
Yeah, but so I want to hear your perspective.
So again, Dark Souls I never beat. But you were the one that got me into Dark Souls. I remember you telling me we were working together, and I remember you saying, there's this game, it's one of those games where you're going to walk, and then someone's going to jump out and kill you, and then you're going to play it again, and you're going to realize that someone's going to show up there, and it's very like you learn by dying, and then it's like, okay. He's like, you're like, Dan, like go to GameStop and go buy it. So like I did, and I played it. I'll never forget that first, like the dragon at first, and just like certain things happening. The real like watershed moment for me was, and I'm sure I brought this up again, so I'm probably repeating myself. There's like, you're on a bridge and there's like the 3 skeletons, and me being super offensive, just I got a sword, I can totally take them, and just running in and just trying to get them and just constantly dying. I had to put the game away. I think I told you too. Like I was having a really, really hard time with it. I remember you always asking, and I think I was always just like, yeah, I didn't really get to it. But honestly, I just put it away because I was just like, there's no way. It's just not for me. It's frustrating. It's just frustrating. But then same sort of thing, like you said. Now I never beat Dark Souls, but same sort of thing. I remember reading a few articles on it, and there was this one article. I don't know if it was Game Informer. I don't know if it was IGN. I forget. But they were talking about how like the magic of it is because you're dying so much, and it's a learning game, and it doesn't hold your hand, and it's just about you gotta like treat every enemy as a boss. So I kind of went in with that mindset, and I had a better experience with it. And then playing Bloodborne,
you got a much better
just
experience.
Absolutely loved it because I went in with the knowledge, being like, okay, I understand every enemy, whether it's like a small dog that shows up or anything. You got to like really plan everything out, and that's why I love Bloodborne, and that's why I also really, really enjoy Dark Souls. And I kind of actually now talking about I want to go back and beat it, but same sort of thing.
Remaster comes out this month.
Yeah, maybe I should just get that and just replay it.
You should.
But
yeah, cool. I know you have a couple more on here we can touch on quickly. Super Metroid.
Yeah, it's actually crazy. I'm sure you were shocked to hear that. Super Metroid is one of my...
I was shocked to hear it.
Super Metroid is probably top 5 games of all time. I love it, but when I was first playing it, I didn't like... And now what I really appreciate, I didn't like the backtracking. I'm sure I brought it before. I don't like backtracking. I hate going all this way and then having to go back. So I didn't like when I go all this way and then you get this weapon. And at least for my small brain, I was just like, well, I have this weapon now. Like, what am I supposed to do? I can't get this way. And I didn't appreciate that, you have to go back to that hole that, you couldn't get up to kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But getting older, getting wiser, and playing a lot more games and appreciating those kind of like more complex adventure games, Super Metroid is one of my all-time favorite games of all time. And I could play that game over and over and over and over again. And I love it more now. Yeah.
That's an interesting one. I know how much you love that game, so I didn't expect that.
Yeah, definitely.
Here's another interesting one. Super Mario Brothers 3. Huh?
I know. When I first played it, I didn't like it at all. I thought it was too hard. I didn't like the graphics.
Because you had already played Super Mario World.
Super Mario World was my favorite game of all time.
You played it before 3.
I played it before 3. It's kind of the same thing when I played Skyrim before I went into Oblivion. It's kind of like it was hard. It's hard to...
Yes.
To go back. So like Super Mario Brothers 3, I didn't like the colors, like the palette. I just didn't think it wasn't like inviting. Mm-hmm. I thought it was really, really like odd, and I don't mind that. But there were just certain things that were like really, really tough, really, really hard, especially like that last. I don't know if it was at World 8 or whatever, where you have to jump on all the tanks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I was just like, what is this? Like, this isn't like Mario. Where is, mm-hmm. The things that I know and love. And again, I think a lot of it just comes with like experience and kind of like appreciating when games try to be different. It's kind of like, I'll compare it to like the Beatles. I'm sure like if someone was like really big, like following the Beatles' career, right? And like, oh my gosh, I love Hard Day's Night. I love, all these, Please Please Me. I love all that stuff. And then, they come out with like Revolver, and you got songs like Tomorrow Never Knows or, Eleanor Rigby, and you're just like, whoa, this isn't what I'm used to. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't like this. And I think it just comes with like appreciating like things that are different and trying to kind of push the envelope. So that's why now I love Super Mario Brothers 3.
It's very interesting to think about someone playing World before 3, because a lot of times people go 3 then World, and then they're like, wow, I love 3 so much, but World is so good. Yeah. It's interesting to see like, because those are like, a lot of people say like the 2 best.
Neck and neck, yeah.
But it's an interesting one.
I think when we did our Mario thing too, we put 3 up there. Like I really just want to say I love Mario Brothers 3.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point. Games you hated at first, but you grew to love. Another one that you have on here, Resident Evil 1.
Yes.
Easy to hate. Easy to hate.
Very easy to hate. Again, kind of like with Simon's Quest and Zelda 2, the clues are extremely obtuse. You need to look at, to find keys to doors, you got to go find a book and look at the back of the book. But if you don't know, if you didn't know to go into the menu and turn the book around to get the key, you're just like, I have the book, but where the hell is the key? Just like stupid stuff like that. Controls are horrible. The fixed camera angles, I love now. But at the time, it's just like, this is dumb. This is just so, again.
Oh, I love that game so much.
I think you just got to, when it comes to these games I'm talking about specifically, except for Super Metroid and Super Mario Bros. 3, because those are fantastic games, near masterpieces, if not masterpieces. The games I was talking about, Simon's Quest, Zelda 2, and Resident Evil 1.
Take them warts and all.
You have to, take warts and all. You have to, realize that doing something new doesn't always translate to what's popular or easy. Sometimes doing something new is going to have its clunks and is going to have its issues. So,
huge one for me on this list, probably the most important one on this list for me, is Dota 2. So
I can't believe you hated that game at first.
Who couldn't hate that game at first? That game is the most... It is a combination of extremely complex and the worst, most toxic community you could ever imagine. So you go on this new game, you want to try out, you play with bots a while. It's unlike anything I ever played. It's like Warcraft with one unit. It's like RTS where you're clicking around and getting them to attack, using abilities. And so I'm like trying to wrap my head around this game, and you go into a match finally, you're like, all right, I think I'm ready to play one. And you screw up once, and everyone's like, you're a fucking idiot, like quit, uninstall, blah, blah, blah. Like the most toxic community you could ever imagine. And I just hated it, but I was like, there's something about it. There was always like a little something about it that I was like,
coming back?
It's because I like learning new things, and when I find something that's like so, like, expansive, as like that, it's like when I first played Dwarf Fortress, I'm like, this is so intense, but there's so much here. It's like I just want to learn everything. So I'm like, I need to figure it out. And I went through probably 50 hours, 100 hours of being terrible and not enjoying it. And then finally I started to figure out like one character. And I was like, okay. Doing pretty good with him. And then I'd be like the best player on the team with that character. So I'm like, all right, let me try a new character. And again, I'd be terrible. And I'd get ripped apart. I'd be like, why the hell do I even play this game? This sucks, blah, blah, blah. So Dota 2, a very masochistic game, and one that I will forever love, and will probably always be my most played game of all time. But absolutely, many times I hate it. Some would say it varies from game to game whether you love or hate it. But with Dota 2 capping us off, I think that's going to do it for that portion. For games that we love, games that we loved and then soured on, and then games that we hated and grew to love. So let's cut it there. I have a couple quick things to say before we jump into our E3 look ahead section. Quick thing, number one, Tacoma came out this week on PS4.
No way.
So I'm recommending Dan play that.
Oh, dude.
Along with you guys out there. If you didn't have an Xbox One and you want to play Tacoma, I highly recommend that game. I really, really like that game a lot. It's out on PS4 now.
Oh, man. On top of all the other games I got to play.
And it's, you get like 25% off for being a Plus member.
Oh, no way. Not bad.
Yeah, for this week. So if you end
Long game? Or it's Gone Home, right?
No. It's the guys that make Gone Home. So it's a little bit longer, maybe 4 hours.
Oh, not bad.
Not even. It's a great game. Absolutely great game. So Tacoma came out. Another quick thing. We're just blasting through a couple things here. Another thing, Nintendo announced their online service.
Oh.
It's going to be $20 a year. Let you play online, all the online services. It also includes like a Netflix style virtual console. It's not called virtual console, so a lot of people are upset for some reason. But it's starting out with 20 NES games, and it's Netflix style. If you subscribe, you get all of them.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
$20 a year.
Not bad.
I like the idea. Some people are hating on it. I think it's a cool idea, and especially if they're going to continue to be adding on and taking away like Netflix does. Yeah. It's a really cool idea to me.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, they announced it. It's real. So,
that's awesome.
We'll hear more about that at E3. So speaking of E3 and Nintendo, we're going to do...
Dude, nice segue.
We're going to do Nintendo's... We're going to do Nintendo's E3 look ahead here. We have a couple games on here that we're pretty confident are going to be at the show. Mm-hmm. Number one, we have Super Smash Bros. For the Switch.
Yeah.
So
I'm just excited to hear some more info on that.
As we start getting away from that announcement, everyone seems to be just taking the fact that this is a brand new Smash game.
Really?
Yeah, everyone's saying that. So I'm hoping they're right. But, Nintendo has not confirmed that, but everybody I'm hearing or writing about this game is just calling it Smash for Switch and saying that it's going to be a new game.
I feel, though, that if it was a new game, though, I feel like Nintendo would be super proud about that and, like, bluntly be like, "Yeah, we're making a new one."
And when they first announced it, and we did the episode when we went through the whatever it's called, what do they call them, Nintendo Directs?
Yeah.
When we went through the Nintendo Direct and said Super Smash Bros, it's got to be a port.
Yeah.
That's what we kind of left off at. But everyone's talking about it like it's not. So I agree with you, but I think we might be on the wrong end here.
Really? I mean, that'd be awesome. I'd be happy to be wrong.
The other thing is they're having a tournament September 1st.
Oh, are we going?
No, we're not going.
Oh.
But I'm saying I think that might indicate release date because the online service is also launching in September. So I think that Smash for Switch will be out this year in September.
I just want to know if it's like a real.
How is that a brand new game when it's going to be out this September?
But that's the thing, and like I really feel like if it was,
we'll see.
I feel like they went like this. I feel like they went like, should be Flash. like oh, yeah, like
yeah, we'll see. Again, it'll be on stage at E3, so we'll
get some more
info.
info.
Not on stage. They actually do a video. They don't have a stage, but
that'd be cool if there's some more info.
They'll absolutely have more info at E3. Mm-hmm. They'll talk about that game for sure. Another one they will absolutely talk about is Metroid Prime 4. They announced it last year in their E3 conference. They're saying it's coming out this year.
Oh, are they saying? No kidding?
It's rumors, but
that's exciting.
We'll see. I don't believe that for a second. I think 2019 for sure.
What was the last Metroid game? Was that Metroid?
Well, that's Metroid Prime.
No, what was the last Metroid game? Was that the one
they had one for 3DS that was actually people really liked.
Oh, I was thinking of other M.
No, they've had a bunch since. But Metroid Prime 4, I'm excited for. I hope they can return to the magic that they had in the first Metroid Prime.
Isn't that a game that you hated but grew to love as well? Metroid Prime?
Oh, no.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I remember one time you being like, Metroid Prime sucks eggs. Maybe you didn't say that exactly.
I don't think I said that. No, honestly, the thing with Metroid Prime is I always liked it, but I didn't have as much of an appreciation for it as I did once I replayed it.
Replayed it again.
Yeah. Like, I liked them. I had them for GameCube, and I liked them, but I was always kind of like, they're not that great, like Super Metroid for life, but I really liked that first Metroid Prime
for
game.
life. Agree. I love Super Metroid.
And Metroid Prime.
I like Metroid Prime, too. A lot.
So, Metroid Prime 4, we'll
that's
see.
Exciting. Yeah.
We'll see what's going on with that. Again, that's not being made by Retro, who made the first 3 Metroid Primes. So, we'll see. I know Capcom has their hand in that. So, another game that will definitely be on their presentation is Mario Tennis Aces. So,
that comes out late June, I think. Like, definitely.
Yeah, that'll be a huge part of their.
It'll be there.
Yeah, their presentation because they like doing a game that's coming out soon.
Uh-huh.
They did ARMS and Splatoon,
yeah.
and those are all summer games. That will be their summer game. We'll see some more about Octopath Traveler, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be really cool. That nice RPG.
Still very excited for that game. That also they're saying this year. So.
Well, I think they have a release date, like July something. Yeah, I think it's in July.
Cool.
So we'll see about that.
So we'll see more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the one that I'm super excited for, Bayonetta 3.
Okay, yeah.
Bayonetta, those games are incredible. You have a Switch.
Never played any Bayonetta games.
You should get that Bayonetta 1 and 2 combo pack.
Yeah.
That came out for Switch.
So those games, Tacoma.
You have too many games.
God of War, Ni no Kuni 2, Metal Gear.
You're getting behind. You got to be ready for a game of the year.
Listen, man, I'm trying. Life.
That's something we have written down for Nintendo right now. We're expecting some surprises, obviously. I could see, they did announce a DLC for Odyssey.
Oh, yeah?
But it was kind of a minor thing. It's that Luigi one. But, I could see an expansion for one of those big games, maybe Breath of the Wild or Odyssey, or we'll see what they're going to be.
They have an expansion for Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. But we'll see if there's any more.
Oh.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of what their surprises could be. They'll also be showing their Splatoon 2 major update that's coming because they have like a big single player thing that they're selling. But I don't know. I can't think of too many. Tropical Freeze just came out on Switch,
right?
Which is an awesome game. But yeah, as far as surprises, I guess it wouldn't be a surprise if I could guess it. But
yeah, sure.
I can't think of too much that they're gonna do. Maybe a new Captain Toad treasure tracker would be cool.
Oh yeah, no one should love that one.
It's a great game. So we'll see. I don't know. I think that's kind of what we have for Nintendo right now.
Super Mario Sunshine for the Switch.
Woof.
Woof. Bark.
Galaxy 3.
Oh, maybe.
No. All right. Well, that's going to do it for us for this week. Thank you guys for joining us as always. Thank you, Shelby.
Thank you, Shelby.
Our producer. We love you.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers in the world.
All you mamas out there.
And let's go and play some video games as much as we can this week. I'm going to do my best. I got to go to bed.
What's up, guys? It's Dan from Circle Back. I'm just here to let you know you can find everything that we do at circlebackgaming.com. If you just want the podcast, we're on iTunes. If you just want the video, we're on YouTube. So catch us either place. Thanks.